Yeah, it would be good if you muted in between. Yeah, I'm going to start recording now. We'll wait a little bit for everybody to start joining. Got some in here. We can do a little bit of chat if you want to in advance. I need to. The landlord has turned his weed whacker off. Thank goodness. For those that are just joining, we're waiting for just a few more people to get online with us here, and we'll go ahead and begin there. And in the meantime, I will go ahead and put some things in our chat box. Such as our email address and the place that you can go to buy tickets. Lee, you're having, it's right that you're going to be leaving early?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Would you be interested in talking about the lead character as a non-binary character? And we're front loading things for you. Is that a subject that you feel good about talking about before you take off?
Potentially. I've not been involved with any discussions about that with Spike or with Dr. Scovira, so I really can't speak to that.
You've been choreographing, right?
Not with them.
But you in general?
For one of the numbers, yeah. Okay,
so you've got plenty to talk about. Never mind. I'm gonna throw a choreography at you at some point. I'm gonna go ahead and start. We are expecting some more people to join us, but they'll just catch on as we go along. I want to welcome everybody to these are like my favorite events because I can sit and relax and I can be home with my cherry Coca-Cola and just find out some really amazing things about what's going on in our theater department. The theater and the music department collaborate on some shows each year to try to bring more experiences to particularly bring people from the theater into the music department and people from the music into the theater department. This year, we are going to be presenting The Cradle Will Rock, and it's directed by Catherine Scovira. She's one of our newer faculty members in the dramatic vocal arts area. I believe this is your second show with the second main stage show, Catherine, is that right?
Yep, that's right, Stephen.
And to put the dates up again on the chat, April 2nd through April 29th through May 2nd. Just before we begin, I want to show you just a little bit about Zoom, about this webinar, they call it. If you notice at the bottom of the screen, you have the little bar that has a new button for those that are used to Zoom. It's called Q&A. And if you click on the Q&A, you will see a brand new box, and it's where the audience members can ask questions. If you all, could somebody write a question in the Q&A from the audience there just to make sure? It doesn't even have to be a question. You can say hi or what your favorite flowers are. But if you just use the Q&A to make sure that it's working, one of our guests here. Hello, Richard, it's working. Good to see you, Richard. It's one of our subscribers. So that's a great place to be able to ask the questions, and I can get done with the question when it's done. Also, if you'll look up in the upper right-hand corner, there's the view button. One of the best ways to watch this is to hit the speaker view so that you just see the person that's speaking, but you can use the gallery view if you want to see everybody all at once. So yeah, it looks like we got a couple more people. Welcome again. We've got the cast and director and some of the creative team. Let's go ahead and start with some introductions. We'll start with Catherine.
Hi, my name is Catherine Scovira. I joined Willamette in the beginning of fall 2019, and I've spent now approximately 1 full year on campus because of the pandemic. This is my second production, but third show here at Willamette. And I have just, this is an exciting moment because we rarely have the cast all in one place due to restrictions. So we have everyone who can or can't be on campus here with us. So it's just a joy to be here. I'm Zeller Chair of Opera Studies here, but as you can see, this is not really an opera. It says end of opera at the end of the score, but it's actually technically a play in 10 scenes, and it's a musical and has a lot of different really cool elements musically. So when you come next weekend, you'll hear all those different elements.
You know, instead of introducing each person, there are a few people that have to rush away and work with some final directing scenes because no one's allowed to wear one hat, and most people are doing theater and music at the same time. So I want to go ahead and let them share something. I'm going to introduce Kendall and Ives. Kendall, let us know what it is you're doing with Cradle Will Rock and a little bit about the plot of the show. Sorry, it's Peyton. It says Ives there. It's Kendall and Peyton.
Okay, hi, I'm Kendall. I play Sassy Clark, who that's the official title, Sassy Clark. She's basically the one that yeah, I'm just a clerk. I just sit there and draw and check people in who come into the police station. It's a lot to do for Ives.
And hi, I'm Ives. I use they, them pronouns. I played Professor Mamie and Dr. Specialist, two of our characters in the Night Court. And just to go over a little bit of plot for those of you who don't know much about the show. To my fellow panelists, let me know if you can't quite understand me. We're in the theater and there's a lot of steps going on upstairs. So the Cradle Will Rock follows a group of Mr.'s Liberty Committee and their stories in the Night Court. It goes over the story of our hero, Larry Foreman, trying to create a union in Steeltown, USA, and all of the lengths that Mr., our antagonist, and his Liberty Committee, all of the workers and professionals in Steeltown that he has bought out and monopolized into being so aggressively anti-union that they end up in court. And each of their testimonies is a little glimpse into the corruption of this town and how easily white collar workers can be bought into being anti-working class. If there's anything else people want me to speak to, I can, but this is a really fun story. It gets into we've made it a little bit more modern, so we play a lot with the gender identities of our performers, and we've done a little bit more to either tie up or untie ends for particular characters based on their professions rather. And yeah, it's a really fun show.
So I'm going to ask Tori, let us know how you work with the show. And one of the things that Ives was talking about was the corruption, said something about corruption, and what's up with this corruption thing that is in the play? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Tori. I use she, her pronouns, and I play Professor Trixie and one of the reporters in the show. And so for corruption, each character in the show represents a caricature of a different institution. And like during the show, a lot of there's university, there's arts, journals, the medical field, sex workers. Each of these characters represents one of them, and a lot of them do get bought out by corruption, and they do get corrupt during the show, and that's, yeah, they just usually.
Is everybody in the show? Do they all fall victim to corruption? Or are there heroes? Or victims? How do they fall in that?
I would say that they don't all fall in the corruption, but most of them do. So guess you'll just have to see the show to find out.
Right on. We have also with us, and apologies if you hear my landlord doing terrible things with the weed whacker outside. Sorry about that if you hear that in the background. One of the people that I get to work with in the theater all the time is graduating this year. And how many shows have you done at Willamette, Lee?
I've performed in 2, but I haven't been involved with every single one.
Every single one of them. And in this one, you're doing, what are you working with for this one?
For Cradle Rock,
Yeah.
I am playing 2 roles. I'm playing the role of Dick, a detective who punishes and brings Maul, one of our lead characters, into the judicial system, and Bugs, one of Mr. and Mr.'s lackeys, who is sent to intimidate Harry Druggist and his son.
Now, Lee gets,
Also,
you get back-to-back opening nights because you're choreographing for the dance concert that opens the day after Cradle Will Rock.
yes, I am.
And are you
And I also choreographed for part of this show as well.
right on? What kind of choreography are we talking here? Is this like flappers, choral stuff, or is it in the moment plot-driven choreography? How's that work?
Well, the one section that we have choreographed is for a song in scene 4 called Freedom of the Press, which is between Mr. Mister and Editor Daly. Editor Daly is trying to push for a higher salary and more respect within Mr. Mister's office, and Mr. Mister is holding that promotion over his head until he gets a smear campaign out on Larry Foreman. And the choreography that we did for that section is during the song, but it very much interacts with the set that they're in that was filmed in Ford Hall. And it's highly rhythmic, very tied up with the lyrics. So there is a Broadway or a sort of jazz style element to it, but it's also very robotic and sort of clinical in a way that isn't really like you wouldn't expect to see on like a big kick line.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could probably talk for hours about excitement for the way that Brecht talked about music and dance and theater. And I know that he was closely aligned with the writers of this, but maybe someone along the way will gush about Bertolt Brecht. Before we go much further, we're gonna tell you a little bit about history. Thanks to those 3 people, by the way. Is there anyone else that is having to rush away to the directing scenes? I think we got all our early people. I'm gonna share with you all the trailer that we did for this, just because I worked with it really hard, and I want someone to tell me that it's pretty, and I think it is pretty sexy. And it's a good example, I think, of the way that the story we're trying to present that out to the audience. Is everybody able to see the scary spike there? Yes. And hopefully we'll get, let's get rid of this. Hopefully we'll get some sound going on. Let's see how this goes. Well, this isn't the one. This is the GIF. I need to do this. I need to go to this one. Is everyone able to see a full screen of the a movie right now? If I were to hit play, let's see.
Why don't you write a piece about all kinds of prostitution?
We can hear it, but we can't see it.
Okay.
We need you to share your screen.
Give that one more try. I'll just do this. You get to see my desktop. Now you're seeing this, right? Yep. Here we go.
Why don't you write a piece about all kinds of prostitution? The press, the church, the courts, the arts, the whole system.
Now I can only take credit for part of that. The person that takes like 85% of the credit for this is with us, and that's Kyle Martz. What are you doing with the show, Kyle?
Hello, my name is Kyle Martz. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the videographer. I get to work with all of you wonderful people, and I get the pleasure of documenting it. I'm also editing, and I'm actually currently right in front of me, I'm color editing that exact scene from scene 6 you just saw. I have really enjoyed this process, and I'm really excited to show you guys what I've been working on.
So you're pretty much like that whole film credit list, but just one person.
I can't take all the credit.
You're doing the camera work and editing as well, and doing all this, the sound you're dropping in all the sound as well.
I am, with the help of Catherine, and I think the entire cast has come in multiple times. They've been called several times to do sound editing. I then overlay it on top of the video, and I go through sort of the intricate process of piecing it all together. But yeah, it's been a great learning experience. I came into this sort of just a videographer, and I'm coming out of it a more well-rounded, I guess, cinematographer.
Right on. And something really good for your, and hopefully a few good references from
Yeah.
the, just for the, for anybody that's joined us late, by the way, if you have any questions, and we love you to have questions, look at the bottom of the screen and the menu bar, you'll see Q&A. If you want to pop that up, that's a great place that you can ask questions for the panelists here. And we'll pretty much jump right away and answer a question as you put them forward. So I studied directing when I was at graduate school, and that's what I got my MFA in. And one of the things I was really into was Brechtian theater, and also the social theater that was going on in America during the Depression. And I remember that there are a lot of stories about this play specifically. Like it's like a big place in American history. Catherine, do you know anything about, do you want to share anything about how Cradle Will Rock works with the overall sculpture of theater?
Yeah, this is an incredible topic. Let me just throw a couple dates your way. The voice that you heard voicing Bertolt Brecht in our trailer was Stephen, presenting that for us. And I wrote to him, I said, how in the world did you get that sounds so much like Bertolt Brecht. How did you get that audio file? It can't be possible. He said, that was me. So I don't know if everyone knew that, but there it is.
Well, based on Brecht's testimony at the hearings for Un-American Activities.
So you can check that out online, because that actually exists. So that gives you a context for what's going on at this time, where just about anybody could be targeted as being anti-American. So when Mark Blitzstein was then hired by the federal government with the Works Progress Act to write this, he decided to take down all aspects of this corruption that was deeply entrenched in politics. And he would probably say now is even more so. So if he was writing this musical now, who knows what would be there. But so Bertolt Brecht came to him in 1935 and said, why don't you write a piece about all kinds of prostitution? Now he centers this entire musical around an unfinished character arc of Moll, the prostitute. That's how she's identified. She doesn't even really have a full name or a last name. And she just becomes the audience right along with us. So we are the person that this trauma and that this abuse is being enacted on. And so we see once Moll is arrested along with the Liberty Committee, because she refuses to give in to 2 different instances of abuse on the street, she's thrown into this incredible situation. So when Brecht challenged Blitzstein to do this, he went ahead and did it. By 1937, he had written this. He lost his partner, his spouse, Eva Goldbeck, in 1936, in the year while he was writing it. And that's why we programmed the song Stay in My Arms, also by Mark Blitzstein, in this. And the beginning of the show will actually have our lead Spike singing Stay in My Arms. And then it just spills over into the plot as if Larry Foreman just stepped off stage and was in the show. So it's a very exciting way to start the show. The show had gone through a couple iterations about how we would start, whether we would have dancers portraying Mark and Ava, And there are so many other characters that you could look into, such as Orson Welles, who was involved in trying to get the show to survive because the government just kept sending representatives saying, we really don't think that you should be doing this and writing this. And Orson Welles went down to the Capitol 4 days before the premiere. Obviously, everything was ready to go. And they had heard these horrible rumors about them shutting it down. So he went down and said, listen, please, let me petition. This is very important theater. And they shut it down the day of the production. And so people still wanted it to continue. So there was a donor that was paying a delivery truck to circle the theater with the piano, which, as you can imagine, is very bad for pianos. So when you hear Mark Blitzstein's Cradle, you might think it actually sounds most authentic on a really out of tune piano, because they found a venue that was willing to let them walk in and do the production. And they took the piano there after hours of circling the city. And they put on the show. But the stipulation was that they were not allowed to perform this with union paid and government paid actors from the stage. And it was those last couple words that made it possible for the premiere to happen. So Olive Stanton, who played Mole, and the rest of the cast were just sitting in the audience, wondering whether they were going to be in jail that night, just like Mole. And when Mark walked on stage to the now very out of tune piano, he sat down and played those first 3 chords, which are one of the most significant moments in this musical. And Olive Stanton stood up and her voice cracked and she was really nervous. And then she started singing, I'm Checking Home Now. And after she finished that song, the various other members of the cast stood up and they performed from the audience, sort of as the audience. And that was the premiere of Cradle Will Rock in 1937. So and what we've done is we've turned it into something where the whole stage is Salem, where it'll be throughout campus and various points in the town here. So we hope you enjoy it. It's been a very special process.
If you all know in the audience and also the students, the New Deal back in 1931, 32, when it was being enacted, the Civilian Conservation Corps and the Works Progress Administration were 2 of the primary ways that they were able to get jobs throughout America. Under the Works Progress Administration or Works Project Administration was the Federal Theater Project. The only time in American history for a few years, the only time that actors were paid by the government, that shows you could actually, they would have a show that would open in several cities at the same time, just like a movie theater. And people were actually being paid by the government, just like you have in Britain and the Royal, the National Theater and places. Very short-lived. Cradle Will Rock was the end of the Federal Theater Project, because what you do is when you give money to artists, then they're going to say what it is they want to say. And oddly enough, the government found in very short time that they were giving money for things that they didn't want to hear. So when Cradle Will Rock, when they pulled it, it wasn't the government shutting it down as much as its own producers shutting it down. I could dream of the day that the government cares enough to give us money to live off of as artists. So. I have somebody from the audience that's asking, can we tape it? Are you talking about taping the, we are taping this broadcast right now, and it will be available afterward, the town hall. If you're wondering about taping of the performance itself, the performances, we're gonna have 4 performances, and they're actually at very specific set times, and they're going to be presented on Deck 10 Media. So if you purchase a ticket, you will be receiving a link to Deck 10 Media. And at one of the performance times, you're able to use your email address, and that allows you to watch the show. You're not able to tape it because the estate of the author and playwright needs to get some money from it. So we can't just be giving it out for free. I mean, we have to pay to, and that's right. You know, if you write a play, you write music, it's right to expect money for it. So we can't let it out for free. So so that answers both of the taping questions, I believe. It's going to be 7 o'clock on the 29th and 30th of April. 7:30, 29th and 30th of April. Also 7:30 on May 1. And then Sunday, May 2nd, we've got a matinee. And unfortunately, we cannot extend that afterward. For some of the other shows we've done so far, we've been able to gift that to people later, but we're not able to do that on this one. Just, that's the kind of show it is. Musicals cost more. So, if there's if there's any questions, just keep popping them up there. Do we have any of the designers with us, by the way? No, this is a much smaller creative group than we have had in theater. There's a lot of people doing all the kind of themselves. Maybe I can surprise Mia Apodaca and say, Mia, what did you guys do for costumes then? Surprise.
So costumes wasn't necessarily my forte. That was something Josie, more or less.
Oh, Josie is.
did, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was calling on you to involve you in lieu of costume person, but if Josie is on, if you got your finger on the pulse, let's pop that over to Josie. Josie, what else are you doing on the show, by the way?
Yeah, I wasn't really sure if I counted as design team or not or anything. I've been running costumes, a couple like behind the scenes sketches and stuff for the website, and just kind of helping out with like props and stuff. Yeah, it's been interesting working with costumes. That's my kind of main focus, because I was trying to figure out how to so it originally started out as taking place in the 30s, and then we shifted it into more of a modern production. So that was definitely a challenge, kind of figuring out how to stay true to the 30s aspect of it while still having it make sense as people would how people would look today. There was a lot of trial and error in figuring out different things, because it was time constraints with what we could get our hands on in time. I didn't even know what we had in store, in stock in the DVA costume department until probably a couple months before. And then it's because of everything going on right now, it's not really where you can go in and look at clothes and buy things. So it's definitely been a lot of trial and error and figuring out what matches people. And I just had a whole lot of help from the cast and kind of getting to know each character and just kind of seeing what we could bring with that aspect of it.
I guess we're really lucky that they figured out online shopping before the pandemic hit. Did you see, I don't know if you saw this, Josie, but somebody identified your mother's shoes in the trailer. Were those your mother's shoes? Yeah?
Yeah, I stole them for her before leaving for college because I liked them and I didn't.
No, it was delightful. Your mother said something. Your mother did a proudful boast on Josie, the great designer of the costumes, and somebody wrote, "Yes, I recognized your shoes." So, someone is asking about the music and will it be performed live? Who might know an answer to that?
I'll take that one. So we have been working together live, but every single person here has done a couple different ways with audio, both so we can get clean audio pre-recorded without masks, and then to match certain things, we've been doing it with masks as a cast. But we've never actually been all together with a cast because not all of us are technically allowed to be on campus. So that means that we can't do the production right now where CDC guidelines and campus guidelines stand. So no, we cannot do it live on campus, but who knows what the future holds. But the music has been pre-recorded so that we were able to sing along with it. And we've been rehearsing it live with each other. Up until maybe a month or two ago, we weren't even allowed to sing full out together. So we were marking most of the semester and we're frequently fielding questions about that just to make sure that we were being safe and socially distanced. The hall that we were in is a huge hall that has an air turnover rate of 3 minutes every 3 minutes. And I know more about HVAC systems and everything than I could possibly have dreamed about. So it's been a very good process, but.
So it will be more of a film than like we had the live streams of the shows at the theater so far where people were actually watching it live.
Yeah, this is going to be a film adaptation, so you'll actually get behind the scenes looks. If you were looking at this on the stage or in a live broadcast from the stage, you wouldn't be able to read those text messages that Jesse is going to send to Larry in the beginning, letting them know that Joe Worker has been murdered.
Well, we also get to put captions and subtitles, just
Yes.
like.
So it increases that accessibility too. So while it seems like a double-edged sword, this hybrid model is definitely the future for getting content out.
Interestingly enough, in the movie industry, when they talk about live singing, it's a very different thing. You watch West Side Story and you watch My Fair Lady, and you're not watching Natalie Wood and Audrey Hepburn, you're hearing Marnie Nixon sing. So that's completely not live. That was looped in. But for example, the big scene in Les Mis where, who's that chick that dies? What's the actress's name in Les Mis? You know, she dreams a dream and stuff. You know, who is it? Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway. That they call live singing because they did not record her outside. She was singing at the time when it was being filmed. How are you all doing live singing for film, or are you doing any looping where you voice over afterward?
It depends on where we can catch the audio. I mean, we did live singing on Hudson Stage, and it's kind of an amalgamation depending on where we get the best sound. So we were in the night court, which is actually the side of the main stage, because it looked so bleak. We said, this is perfect for the night court. It's right next door. So we actually had live piano on the stage, and then we were doing the night court in the side kind of wing where the piano would exit the stage. So it just depends. There will be parts of the Zoom call with Mr. Mr. and the doctor and the faculty in scenes 8 and 9 that will be that original audio. So in answer to your question, yes to all of it. It just depends where.
You do what you need to do when you do what you need to do.
Yeah, we just want it to sound the best that it can because the footage looks so good. We just want to match it.
Right on. I'm gonna introduce some other people that are here. We've got Gus Messner, who also is another person who walks the theater and music stages in succession. Tell me about your time working with Cradle so far.
Well, as you said, my name is Gus Messner. I use he/him pronouns, and I film the roles of the Gentleman, Reverend Salvation, and Editor Daily. And I will say that I was actually almost like a secondary member for an individual who unfortunately had to leave. But even so, the experience I've had within this production has been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I love how the songs all flow together with each character. Because the best part about it is that I've noticed this in some musicals, especially, there's a very distinct kind of repertory pattern with a lot of the songs that are designed to like tie everything together, and normally that's pretty impressive. But I like how distinct each character's song and moment is with their scene, because most of this performance is flashbacks showcasing these characters' corruptions until we get towards like the last quarter of the entire musical, at which point we start to kind of hop back into reality of the moment. But each character in their own variant of corruption has their own stylistic choices happening to them, in terms of how the music's balanced, in terms of how we decided to film the scenes, and all of this blending together and all these perfect little pieces. It just came together so wonderfully, and I'm just absolutely loving being a part of it.
I'm sorry, guys. I was laughing.
I noticed.
I have to do that.
Professor Scovira.
It happens too often. You think they would have figured it out? I'm here.
The lights turned off on you. I noticed.
It saves money, I suppose, but it wastes the energy this way. How about Brady Mcdevitt? Tell us who you are and tell us something about this show that you're working on.
Yeah, so I'm Brady Mcdevitt. I'm a junior here at Willamette. I use she, her, hers pronouns. And I play both Mole, who you've heard some about, and Mr. Mr. And it's been a really interesting experience. And what I kind of wanted to talk about was balancing having to play both a woman and a man as a female identifying person. And like, one song with Mole is like, high soprano or like mezzo. And then I changed to Mr. Mister where I have to sing pretty low, almost so low sometimes that I have to talk through it. And that's been pretty interesting. And I think the funniest thing that I've actually taken from this production is I have been posting funny videos of me in costume on my social media and doing like, comedy videos on TikTok and things like that. And I think like it was, started as like a funny thing just because like I was dressed up as an old man. But I also think it has gotten people to be interested in our show off of like younger people that follow me. And I think that is pretty interesting because social media is so powerful. And I think especially with a show that is a live stream online, purely online, I think that'll attract a lot more people to come see it, which I'm very happy about. But yeah, it's been a super interesting experience, and I've really loved to be able to sing during this time, especially songs as wonderful as the ones I get to perform. And so it's been really awesome.
Brady, when you're playing a man, though you identify as a lady, how do you go into that? I mean, do you play a man? Do you play a character? Do you try to give people what they expect? Or how do you do that? What's that all about? What goes through your mind when you have to inhabit something that's different in that way?
Yeah. Well, my biggest thing with at least Mr. Mister is like thinking, because he is the main antagonist, right? So I try to think of like people that I know that are evil and like especially men in power currently that are evil, and I try to kind of like just not impersonate because I am my own character, but like take some of their personality traits and things into my character. And I think that has really helped, especially with like, I don't know, I'm normally a fairly like bubbly person and I'm like kind, but Mr. Mister is evil and horrible and mean and demanding. And that's something that I feel like I don't really do a lot. And so it's a lot of acting. With that character, it's a lot of being someone who is the opposite of myself, but it's been a great learning experience. And I don't know, I think that's added a lot to my acting repertoire.
I'm glad you're going to be here for another year, though. So, because I've just missed you. I've missed seeing a lot of everything. So, hey, Edie, why don't you tell us a little bit about what this has been like for you so far?
Yeah. Hello, my name is Edie. I use she, her pronouns, and in the show I play Mrs. Mister, and who is Mr. Mister's wife. Yet they're never seen together, which is a little strange. And then also President Prexy, who is the president of College University, who's kind of in charge of these different professors who are being recruited for the Liberty Committee. And it was really interesting for me, not because I don't have a lot of like theater background at all. And so I think I was in one show in high school and maybe one outside of that. And so it was very different for me, and never having done any kind of like film projects was very different as well. I think especially with Mrs. Mister, it was very hard because I just don't personally identify with like any of her characteristics. And so she's very like kind of Cruella de Vil-ish. That's kind of what I think of. So it took a lot of coaching from Professor Scovira to get me kind of in that place. Like I remember we were filming at a restaurant in downtown Salem, and I had to wear my costume to this restaurant, right? And my costume as Mrs. Mister is very intense and like out there and loud, like fur coat, leopard print heels, the whole deal. And I was just walking through Salem, and of course it's raining and I'm like late, so I'm running. And it was just, I don't know, if that doesn't describe the whole experience of me trying to play somebody so unlike me, then I don't know what does, but yeah.
Have you ended up falling in love with the character that you hate? I mean, did you learn how to love the hate?
I think there was a lot of growth that happened for me with this character. And so I think in that respect, I have come to kind of love that I've been able to play this character. I don't know if I'd say I love the character, but she definitely is a different one. And it was rough to play her, but I think I did learn a lot with just the filming process, but then also with just how to embody that kind of character.
I think a little bit of Susan Lucci, who was like 35 years in soap operas, nominated 19 times before she won her first Emmy. She was like the queen of soap operas. But her character, Jessica Kane, I believe, was so hated that people, and she was a very sweet person, but she was so hated that people would see her on the street and slap her. Like strangers would slap her because of her character. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen to you. I hope that you don't. If you've got millions of people watching you, I guess the chances are higher that you're going to get slapped. So, funny little story. When I was trying to communicate with you all at one point, I had to send out something to everybody. So I got everybody's email, but I couldn't get Natalie Gwynn's email in willamette.edu, and I kept looking, and I went through the student directory and I went through the faculty directory, and I didn't know what to do. And finally I typed it online, and it's like Statesman Journal. So I suppose, Natalie, you're a community member that's joining us for this show. Is that right?
Yes, I'm a 2015 Willamette grad,
Right.
but I am fortunate to be back for this.
How'd you find out about the show and get yourself involved with it?
Yeah, so I play Sadie and Ella, who are two smaller but important to the plot characters. And Brenda, the accompanist, reached out to me. She and I had worked together a lot during my time at Willamette, and since we've stayed in contact. And there had been some changing in casting, and they were needing someone who could take on those roles, and asked if I would be interested in it. And as you mentioned, I work for the Statesman Journal, and so I have a lot of specific things that I can and cannot do in the community to maintain, make sure there's no conflicts of interest and stuff like that. But this was an opportunity that I got to do, and so it's been really cool. I mean, I haven't been able to be on campus because I am a community member, so a lot of the whole team has had to put up with a lot of, okay, Natalie has to send this in separately, or we'll figure out how to do this with Natalie separately. So it's been an interesting but great experience.
Right on, right on. Did you get to do a lot of stage performances when you were at Willamette? Like, did you work with just the music department in concerts, or did you do plays as well?
I was in the Willamette Dance Company all 4 years. I did that, and I did some shows with the theater's dance department as well. I was in the DVA program for my first 2 years, and chamber choir for my sophomore, junior, and senior year, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. So a little bit of everything, but it's
as it goes along. So welcome to the real world. Congratulations. I don't remember the years. I remember little bits and pieces of college. Yeah. Fun now. So we've got a Christine, who loves to join us at this. Hi, Christine. Have a question from her, and maybe some of the people that I haven't spoken with might have answers to this. Christine writes, question about actors being cast in multiple roles. Was this for practical reasons? Did doing video make this more possible versus live performance? Or was this a creative choice to bring out something between two characters played by one actor? From the acting side, some have already shared their dual role experiences, but other comments about how it's felt performing different roles. So yeah, not a lot to unpack there. Just a whole case of luggage. Emerald or Isaac or Mia, did any of you work with multiple roles in this? Emerald says yes. Tell us about you.
Yeah, so I play Dauber, and I'm first reporter. So first reporter was a few lines. So for me, it was an easy transition between two characters. But I believe for Brady's role or Edie's role, that would be really challenging and definitely a place to grow. I think we did do it for some like practical reasons, but also like it was kind of interesting to have people play multiple roles. Yeah.
Do you think that the audience is supposed to, are we supposed to recognize that people are playing two different roles and add different dynamics and make our own choices? Or are we trying to disguise the fact that we have limited resources?
I'm going to say so that people may recognize that there are people playing multiple roles, but at the same time, we're shooting during a pandemic, and so we're kind of limited to resources and people. So I think that plays into effect, making use of like how many people we have.
Mia or Isaac, am I saying that right? Mia, is it Maya? Mia, it's Mia.
It's Mia, yeah.
Did I do multiple roles?
Yes, I did. I played Harry Druggist and, oh my gosh, completely blanking, Professor Scoot. Harry Druggist is in, I don't know how many scenes, probably about 4 or 5, and Professor Scoot is in 1. So for the most part, I was in the Harry Druggist, pharmacy, soda pop shop mindset. And then I just kind of decided to channel this quirky, quiet, like mousy professor. That was, I mean, I don't have an extensive background in theater, but it was definitely fun to think about how specific characters, the ones that I played, would think about their actions and how they would say their lines, things like that.
I wonder, in your imagination, do the professor and Harry Druggist, do they know each other? I mean,
No.
Are there something with the professor?
Absolutely not.
No, they don't know each other.
No, not in my mind, no.
I always love how coincidental it is that somebody who's named Harry Druggist just happens to work with drugs when they get older.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, Harry Druggist is a staple in the community for his little shop, but if anything, Scoot has walked by and would not have set foot in the shop yet.
Catherine, can you tell us a little bit more about your choice to do multiple characters and how you figured out how to do that?
I sat down with the people, I sat down with the names and the descriptions and the people that had walked in the door. And when I've seen this show before, it feels a little sad when a person comes in and does one scene and then is gone. And this has been done in opera houses, and that's the case. Scoot will come in and then you're just there waiting for curtain call. And because we were adapting it to a film, we were able to play a little bit more so that every person doing 2 roles was able to then actually have a full experience. Gus is playing 3 people, but technically we reveal that the Gent and Reverend Salvation are the same person, which is a really interesting, as you'll see in the first scene, it's very interesting. Brady playing both Mr. and Mull, I mean, we never see them together until scene 10, the culmination, but we're able to cheat the system by having Mull being brought in to be questioned right before he arrives. And so really the only time you see them is scene 1, scene 10, and barely that. I think it's so exciting because maybe Gus and Brady can speak to this, that you both are in 2 scenes together, but it's different characters in 2 duets, but 2 different people.
What's that like, Gus?
Well, I can definitely say that it is definitely funny in that sense, because I think we both realized it like shortly after it started happening. Because we have our first scene in like the first scene of the entire play where I will admit it's technically a duet in a sense, but my part is much smaller compared to Brady's as that character. And then when we get to scene 4, it's definitely a much more like even ground, even though our characters are completely different, and it's just these absolutely insane power shifts. But honestly, due to just the pure costuming and overall character choices that we've done, I honestly think, even though we are obviously the same people, in that sense, I think the scenes still feel distinct and very much apart from each other. I think that was well done from a directing and choreography and filmography aspect.
There's this again, I'm gonna be a Brecht nerd for just a moment. He has this whole thing about teaching people through theater. I wonder if any of the students know the word. Anybody know the word for his plays, his teaching plays? Anybody know it? I'll teach it to you so that we know that we've had class today. It's called Lernstücke, and it's the learning play, and it has all these elements. And the whole idea is to be able to teach people. And he thinks that, like, if you watch like soap operas, you're going to get too emotionally involved and you're not going to learn anything. You're just going to see Susan Lucci and want to slap her on the street. Instead, what you need to do is not connect with characters emotionally and realize instead that you're watching theater, that you've got a theatrical display. And it comes out in ways like singing, because people don't sing in real life, and making strange characters that are named Harry Druggist or Mr. Mister, or putting it in fantastic, elaborate places like rich people's homes that we can't live in. And another one of the ones that I think that Brecht would absolutely love is doubling, that we should be able to recognize that Brady is playing two different people, because that makes us realize that we're in a play. We're not going to try to learn as much about what breaks your heart as why is Brady in two different things and what am I trying to learn from that? That's what Brecht thought. That's what Brecht thought. If you want to see a really great Brechtian play, by the way, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder. It's got it all. Every Brechtian Verfremdungseffekt effect is in that one. So, Catherine, what you were going to say?
I wanted to share with the cast, because you don't know much about me as a performer, but when I was in these early professional development programs, the stage directors would say, we're going to throw at you as much as we can, because this is training, and then you'll be ready for anything. So if I was Donna Elvira in Mozart's Don Giovanni, I would be told that I had to play a character that was 3 months pregnant, which is a lot different than 6 months pregnant, so that people don't know why she's experiencing things a certain way. And it's hard to have the costume and the mentality and the physicality to show that. But I always knew, every single person in this cast walked in and already was the character to me. I could see it all very, very clearly. And Kyle, you see a lot of it now, so you can tell that just it's evolved, and every single person has been just a dream cast.
Yeah, the roles played, it's like everybody fits their role, no matter how many they have. I have come into this with absolutely no theater background, and just the amount of talent that these people have to fill these roles is extremely impressive from somebody with no background in this. It's been really, really impressive and really, really fun for me to see this whole process, and it's been a very special experience for me. My mom is very excited for me because she sort of grew up in the theater, in a theater program, and she's very excited that I have had this experience before graduating college.
Are you a senior this year, Kyle?
I am. I graduate in a matter of weeks.
Right, because I'm looking for somebody that can do, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I just love filmographers, and right now I'm piecing trailers together by myself, and once you'll find someone, and then they graduate so quickly. Hey Isaac, we haven't chatted with you. Tell us a little bit about you and Cradle Will Rock.
Yeah, so I'm Isaac, and I was kind of brought in not later, but I wasn't I was a replacement, I believe, for someone, and I played the cop who does not have a lot of lines. So Professor Scovira kind of just, if there was a need for another just extra person, I was usually there. So I'm sprinkled throughout 3 different times, 2 of them without lines. It's great.
Hopefully it's none of those. I've seen movies where people walk out one door and they come in another as extras.
But you'll see Isaac appearing in scenes 5 and 6, not as the cop, but he could be the cop. It could be the cop walking into the cafe, picking up a pizza on his day off. It's completely believable.
Are you ever in the same scene as two different people, Isaac? No. Good. Although that would be wonderful. Don't get me wrong. I think that would be delightful to see. I wonder if anybody else has. We just have a few minutes left here. Anybody else have any like crazy funny stories about filming or what you've learned along the way?
I was just going to comment again on the double casting thing.
Please.
With scene 10, that is the scene where Mole and Mr. Mister are both in the same room. And for a lot of the filming of the Night Court, I was either in one costume or the other. And so it'd be funny because like I would need to be a stand-in for Mr. Mister while being in my mole costume. And so I'd walk in like saying Mr. Mister's lines and I'd be in a blonde wig. And like it just was kind of funny the things we had to work with when, it takes me 30 something or more minutes to get into my, makeup for Mr. Mister and costume and wig and everything. So it's like, it was hard to switch back and forth with characters. So a lot of that kind of craziness happened in filming, was seeing like the opposite character being there.
So there are times in which we will see both Mr. Mister and Mole in the same shot?
Not in the same shot, but it'll go from shot to shot and you'll see both of them.
Crazy land.
Yeah.
Crazy land. So I guess that kind of goes to what Christine was asking about, that that couldn't happen on stage, could it? It's something, it's a way that we can exploit theater in the film, I suppose. So that's kooky crazy. Gus, you have to tell me, you were gonna tell me some story and I stopped you earlier before we got on about what was it about filming?
No, it was just we were talking about some potential funny stories that we had from the casting, and I remember it was like one of the first days that we were having a filming. I believe I was just like scene 1. It was during the beginning of Brady's character Maul's song, and as we were all like kind of like getting used to it, like understanding like, okay, so we're filming, here's what we need to do. I believe it was me, Tori, and Lee, who were all kind of standing outside as they were filming inside, and we were just sitting there, and then we see the door open as Brady walks out, and we realize they're in the middle of filming, so the three of us immediately like look at the camera and immediately all just like scattered. It was one of the funniest. And like we all like had this like look of panic in our eyes, and like each just like ran in random directions.
Did you have to do that too, that shot again? Because
I think we did, but I think the original shot is available. I hope so, at least, because it was funny.
Yeah, it's
Kyle, you said you are all in the shot, and they still hadn't quite cleared the wide shot, so they were still in the shot anyway.
So we didn't actually even get out of the shot after we scattered.
I know, and it's like we're so used to theater that you're like, as long as I can't see the audience, they can't see me. I mean, unless you're sticking your foot out. But no, it's not
we found out the opposite very quickly.
Yeah, you just have to be in your trailer. Just don't even be by. Don't, stay at the crafts table and eat some food. So it looks like we're wrapping up here. I don't see any other questions, although if someone pops one in really fast, I'll answer it.
Can I just mention one of my favorite moments was when Edie's heels broke just as we were going to finalize her scene as Mrs. Mister. So those heels that you see in the trailer are really iconic, and they broke right as we were walking into the final shooting of that scene. So we faked it thanks to Kyle and Edie's ingenuity.
So now I hope that Josie's mom knows that you have broken her heels. That's amazing shoe. The shoes are like imprinted in my mind now. They're not only awesome in the film, but just because they became their own character online in the Facebook. So in the Facebook. Just one more little shout out then. So Cradle Will Rock opens on April 29th. It runs 29th and 30th and May 1 at 7:30. and then Sunday, May 2 at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. You'll want to go to WU Theater at willamette.edu in order to get tickets, or just, you can pop into Willamette, the home website, type in theater, and you should be able to find the way to purchase the tickets there. Tickets are $5 for students all the way up to $12 for general admission, and senior tickets and senior discounts as well. This year we've had to enter a new territory. So nobody that you're seeing right now has ever had to do what we're doing right now. We only do it because we want to keep doing art. We want to have more experiences. And we know that there's something strange inside us that has addicted us to the ability to have an audience and artist communication. And even the pandemic wasn't as strong as that addiction that we had. So I have real admiration for everybody that is addicted to the wonderful drug of art and music and theater, and because it's so much more healthy than other drugs, and also because it's forced us to not hide during this crazy pandemic, but it's forced us to find the options in which we reveal in different ways. So it's pretty darned amazing. So I'm just trying to get people to see the shows, but you guys are the ones that are doing all the crazy, heavy, vulnerable, and heroic work. So congratulations to all of y'all there. Unless there's anything else, I think we just want to everybody turn their mics on and thank all the guests for coming in today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you, everybody.
Adios. Come watch shows.
Yeah.